included the Regional Central Library at Enugu, the Agrarian Revolution, and the founding of the University of Nigeria at Nsukka. Zik raised the level of treasury funds from £4 million to £8.5 million during his tenure as Premier of Eastern Nigeria.
Perhaps the founding of the University of Nigeria Nsukka was Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe's most singular achievement as Premier of the Eastern region. Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe restored the dignity of man at Nsukka and gave Nigeria her first indigenous full-fledged university. In 1957, Mr. Alderton, the permanent secretary to the Premier of Eastern Nigeria, Dr. Azikiwe, informed Mr. Lawrence, the administrative officer in Nsukka, about a meeting to be held in Nsukka between Dr. Azikiwe, the Premier, and Mr. James Kubid of the firm of Messrs. Kubid Partners, Architects of London. The meeting was held and discussed the choice of Nsukka as a proposed site of the University of Nigeria. Between this meeting in November 1957 and October 7, 1960, when the university opened her doors to its staff and students of 270, there was considerable international and national interest in Nsukka. Construction firms, local and foreign, set up big construction industry that attracted thousands of skilled, semi-skilled and unskilled labor from all parts of Nigeria to Nsukka. Members of the Provisional Council of the University and initial University Administration Group moved in. A large police detachment moved into Nsukka, followed by staff and students of the university. A new modern university town has been created in Nsukka, Hidado, a rural place with only a divisional office overlooking a hilly and rugged landscape. Academic work started with the arts and social sciences. All that was needed to begin with were books. Zik donated books from his library. Hence, the University of Nigeria Library was subsequently named after him as Nnamdi Azikiwe Library. The original think tank was headed by Zik. He prepared the curriculum for all the departments, and they were used as working papers to start off and prepare specific curricula. Having passed through various administrations, today the University of Nigeria is an epitome of excellence.
The Right Honorable Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe conceived the idea of the motto of the university being to restore the dignity of man. I believe he saw that the African man had suffered lots of indignity in the hands of imperialists and those who governed us, and the black man as he raised had suffered all types of humiliation for centuries.
Pressure for independence from within Nigeria was complemented by pressure from other nations and from reformers in Britain and in other colonies. We have learned that the 1947 Constitution failed on several counts. The Constitution had serious long-term impact through its encouragement of regional, ethnic-based politics. It was abrogated in 1949 and was followed by other constitutions in 1951 and 1954. Each of which had to contend with powerful ethnic forces. The Northern People's Congress (NPC) argued that Northerners, who made up half of Nigeria's population, should have a large degree of autonomy from other regions and a large representation in any federal legislature. The NPC was especially concerned about respect for Islam and the economic dominance of the South. Because of these fears, the North did not feel ready for independence when a 23-year-old legislative backbencher, Anthony Enahoro, made a motion for independence in 1953. The Western-based Action Group also wanted autonomy. They feared that their profitable Western cocoa industries would be tapped to subsidize less wealthy areas. In the poorer East, the National Council for Nigeria and the Cameroons wanted a powerful central government and a redistribution of wealth, the very things feared by the Action Group. The eventual compromise was the 1954 Constitution, which made Nigeria a federation of 3 regions corresponding to the major ethnic nations. It differed from the 1947 Constitution in that powers were more evenly split between the regional governments and the central government. The Constitution also gave the regions the right to seek self-government, which the Western and Eastern regions achieved in 1956. The Northern region, however, fearing that self-government and thus British withdrawal would leave it at the mercy of Southerners, delayed the imposition until 1959. The British announced to Nigerians in London that on October 1, 1960, it will hand over power and Nigerian independence would be achieved. In December 1959, elections were held for a federal parliament. None of the three main parties won a majority, but the MPC, thanks to the size of the northern region, won the largest plurality. The new parliament was seated in January 1960. That January 1960, Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe was elected president of the Senate. On October 1st, 1960, Nigeria gained its independence from Britain. The handover document was signed in the main boardroom of the Federal Palace Hotel. Jubilant crowds poured into Lagos for the independence ceremonies. That October 1st, 1960, Zik became the Chancellor of the new University of Nigeria. Again, the North had won the largest plurality in the 1959 elections. The decision was that either the AG would coalesce with the NCNC and form a government with Zik as Prime Minister, or the MPC would coalesce with the NCNC and Zik would have to accept the ceremonial position of Governor General. If Zik had accepted to become Prime Minister, there would have been a crisis and the North would have seceded from Nigeria for fear of Southern domination. It is because of his deep love for one Nigeria, or the sustenance of the newfound independence as a united nation, especially because he was already strategizing for a United States of Africa, that Zik decided to lead NCNC into coalition with the MPC. The Sardauna of Sokoto, Sir Ahmadu Bello, who was an offspring of the great Fulani jihadist Usman Dan Fodio and who would have been the Prime Minister of Nigeria, which was the highest executive position in the then Nigeria, gave up the position to his deputy, Alhaji Tafawa Balewa.
The 30 days of its independence is a sign of confidence in the administration you leave behind.
Everything is, I think I would say, though people say nothing perfect, but I think everything is perfect and we haven't got any trouble whatsoever.
Though the same, unfortunately, can hardly be said for the United Nations. Do you hope to be speaking to the General Assembly yourself?
I hope to, yes.
I don't know whether you noticed a remark made by Mr. Nehru the other day, that when a neutral country joins a neutral bloc, it ceases to be neutral.
Exactly, and I agree with him. I told reporters in Lagos the same thing yesterday evening. They said, well, what about the neutralist group? I said, well, they are committed.
So what kind of neutralism do you envisage? You really think it's going to be possible?
I don't like this idea of neutrality. I don't like the word, you know. I think it's the wrong word.
How do you hope to maintain your real independence of the political world?
We want to pursue an independent view.
Sir Ahmadu Bello became the Premier of the North. Dr. Azikiwe, in profound respect to the MPC-NCNC coalition, took the elder statesman role as Governor General and Commander-in-Chief of Nigeria in his birthday, November 16, 1960. This position was left to him by the departing British colonial administrator. When Nigeria became a republic in 1963, Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe was sworn in as first president of Nigeria. The provision of the new constitution as pertaining to the president were that he should be the head of state of the Federation and the commander-in-chief of the armed forces of the Federation. His powers were mainly ceremonial, except that he was also given the power to appoint the country's representative abroad, and only upon the advice of the Prime Minister. Chief Awolowo assumed the leader of government opposition. The crisis Zik faced as Governor General and his actions included 1. the Western Nigeria Premiership position